Welcome to Crazy Town Productions. This is John.
This is Patrick.
We do podcasts here. Our banner says pop culture therapy. And mostly here we do story crafting. And the therapy part of it is that there are things we want to work on.
They're projects that we'd like to see get accomplished.
Yeah, and there might be projects you're interested in. Like, you want more Harry Potter stuff, so we did too. And that's what we did. And
we want like more Star Wars, Ewoks, and
how to do things right. Yeah, so now I want to talk about Mr. Rogers, and the problem is essentially this. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Could you be mine?
Right.
Would you be mine?
Right. So I'm about to do Mr. Rogers, and already I need therapy. And the banner is pop culture therapy, and this is a therapy one, I guess. So I want to do Mandela Affect, if that's okay, before we do Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. And why we start with Mr. Rogers, on why I can't even start and now I need therapy, is it's a beautiful day in our neighborhood versus it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. You and me, Patrick, just said the
neighborhood, and it's supposed to be.
Yeah, go ahead, watch any episode. Right, watch any episode of Mr. Rogers now, and it's our neighborhood, which leads one to think, okay, it's a beautiful day in my burbclave. It's a beautiful day in my gated community, my closed-off area where I'm safe from the others. And this is not a political podcast, but that is a shift in the way you sing Mr. Rogers. And
it's not right.
Yeah, so I'm having issues, and a lot of other people are having issues over this sorts of thing. And I like to listen to this one podcast called Tales from the Pit. Helps me work through things sometimes. And so I'd kind of like that sort of thing to be this one. So welcome to the Mandela Affect.
Pop culture therapy.
Exactly. Suddenly I feel like I'm in Frasier's office. You know, Niall, Frasier, the show. From Frasier.
Frasier.
Right.
The psychologist.
So the first thing I want to say about the Mandela Effect is, if you don't know anything about it, you'll learn. But if it seems like just a bunch of goofy false memories, that's fine.
But these are shared false memories.
Yeah. And if you don't have any, if it's fun to learn about, it is fun to dig into, but you can go down a weird road with it, and it becomes very Conspiracy, the movie, with Mel Gibson.
Conspiracy theory.
Yeah. Oh, that's the title I was looking for. The Mandela Effect, first of all, the Mandela Effect is the bricks of it, the Lego bricks of it, are pop culture bricks. So in talking about the Mandela Effect, it's just nothing but a kaleidoscope
of pop culture stuff,
references, images, you name it. The other part of it that's important is that if you don't have any issues with the Mandela Effect, then it's easy to dismiss somebody who is having issues as goofy and their concerns don't matter. They need to.
It's a big deal.
It can be a big deal for somebody who's actually having issues. It's the kind of thing where it's not very woke or good to say to somebody who's having problems in their life, crippling depression, just any kind of massive issues with their life, family issues, a death, you name it. You don't say to that person that their problems don't matter. Their problems are unimportant. The way they feel
is unimportant.
Right, because they're not going to get better. You're shoveling dirt on their problems, and nor is it a good idea to say, hey, you know what I would do if I were you, and then input your favorite cause here. You know what you need to do is needlework. That's what makes me feel better, is crocheting. Okay, well, that works for you. That's not necessarily going to work for
you.
Right, it somehow... Right, it worked for... actually, now that I think about it, crocheting needles, worked for Sylvester Stallone. In
Demolition Man.
You're right, yeah. The cop who busted heads, turned out he was a seamstress. Okay, so... And it worked for him, somehow. It works for...
Calmed them down.
Right. So it's not cool to say, input your favorite cause here. Oh, you're having a stressful day? Go play Call of Duty. I don't really like Call of Duty. And maybe I like listening to, Sigur Rós trippy music and having a waterfall or whatever. drinking coffee and staring off into the distance in a walk with my dog. I don't even have a dog, but somebody likes walking in the woods, and that's how they. So you don't tell people they have to input their favorite cause here to fix it. And the Mandela is a major problem once somebody starts to think about it, once they start to dig into it. So that's what I'd like to. That's a lot of who I'm talking to, who we're talking to today. And you might be interested to learn, well, why is this such an issue? Well, it's a major issue, and we'll get to that. The major problem with somebody who is having the Mandela effect, if you're having a problem with it in your house, is I'd like to say, your issue is not what is in front of you. Your issue is how you thought your life would turn out. It's like when you break up with a girlfriend, or the girlfriend breaks up with you, or the boyfriend breaks up with you, or you break up with whoever. You have a death in your family, a loss of some kind, and you end up grieving how you thought your life would turn out. It is helpful to know that that's how your grieving process works. And there's like 7 stages. Could you?
Yeah, there's 7 stages of grief: shock and denial, pain and guilt, anger and bargaining, depression, reflection, loneliness, the upward turn, reconstruction and working through, and acceptance and hope.
Could you do that with the numbers one more time real quick? Just number 1. What?
Yeah. Number 1, shock and denial. Number 2, pain and guilt. Number 3, anger and bargaining. Number 4, depression, reflection, loneliness. Number 5, the upward turn. Number 6, reconstruction and working through. And number 7, acceptance and hope.
Okay, so those are the stages that one typically might go through a variant of those stages as they go through a loss, a breakup, and whatnot. And in their grief, you're often grieving over what you thought things would be like versus your current situation. Okay,
Right.
So that is precisely the grief of somebody who's having issues over the Mandela effect, as it may or may not be difficult for you to understand, or as you might be realizing, yeah, that is my problem. And it's precisely this. You think reality is one thing.
And it's not.
You find out very in your face for all of history that you are wrong. And not only are you wrong, but you know you were right on something. And now the world is no longer what you thought it would be like. You've lost your footing, you've lost ground, and that's an issue for people.
Yeah.
You have to know that the world, if at least it doesn't make sense, that at least you can rely on your memories. And if, your memories are fuzzy, we all have fuzzy
Memories, but this is different.
Right. Then people bring up, false memories. And just every time you think you're having an issue, it's just false memory, false memory, false memory. Well, then I've got a head full of nothing and crazy chips, and how can we even have a conversation with words that mean the same to you and I? How could society have even gotten this far if people can be walking around this confused?
Right.
Okay, so that was a lot of what I wanted to say about the psychology
behind
struggling with the Mandela effect. Okay, so it's called the Mandela effect because it's named after Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela, who, for a lot of people, especially me and teachers that I had growing up, had taught me that he had died in prison. That's the way I remember it. That's the way a lot of people remember it. And apparently now he died in, I think it was 2013.
The Mandela effect is named after him because a woman pointed this out online on Reddit. I wish I had her name in hand. But anyway, all credit to her. She pointed this out at large, and a whole bunch of people came out of the woodworks and were like, yes, I remember this. Okay, so there's things called remnants. Turns out that there's a remnant of this, and it's in a South African textbook, which is, I believe, an English book. And so that recounts a story about Nelson Mandela's death. And I believe a paragraph or two somebody wrote about the funeral, and then it has a picture of the funeral. Okay, so I remember that picture. I remember George Bush, senior, junior?
Probably senior.
No, I feel like it was junior. Anyway, I remember, I'm getting fuzzy now. when the Mandela first hit me, I still remember the red carpet, the brown casket. He was on this little podium. My memories don't matter. There's a picture of it in this textbook, and there's a whole story about it. And he died in prison. There's a remnant. People like to chase down remnants. There's the Kit Kat remnant, the little dash.
With the dash.
Yeah, and
I remember the dash.
Right. I remember the dash too, and stuff like that. I don't. It's kind of interesting to go down this long road with it, but it's not useful when talking about advertising, because advertisers, they change their
campaigns up so often, and they change their names.
People screw things up.
People screw them up all the time.
Different countries. So there's not much reason to get too bugged out about that. It really just feeds a paranoia to go like, oh, look at this. Although it is a funny joke to say, well, I'll start this podcast and I'm going to have my bowl of Fruit Loops to start the day. FROOT.
And now it's FRUIT.
Sit down and watch Looney Tunes. LOO. Is it tune?
It's Tunes. TOONS versus TUNES.
I can't remember.
And I remember TUNES.
Yeah, because they were these tiny little skits that were attached to Steamboat Willie. Was a black and white
playing
silent film with a piano reel. That's why
they're tunes.
Right. So there's no such reason to have a word tunes, TOO, unless it's anyway. None of this makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get completely de-anchored from your world. So I would like to say, from my perspective, okay, so you have two groups, what you call natives and what you call... you're either native or not native.
Native or not.
And it's not reality-based. You don't get very black and white with it. It has to do with whether or not you knew something that is widely recognized that happened in history and now things have changed. When you recognize a Mandela Effect is what I'm saying.
And now you're part of...
And that you know that something has changed. On that particular something, you can consider yourself non-native. Versus natives will be like, oh no, it's always been that way. Native, always been that way. And it's not reality in general. It's the Kit Kat bar. Did you think there was a dash or not? Well, if you didn't think there was a dash and now there is there no dash now?
There's no dash.
Oh my God! I thought there's a dash to me.
Yeah.
And as I said, the Kit Kat's not a great example, but Mandela himself.
I remember. As I said, I remember.
I remember his funeral when I was a kid.
I remember my teacher telling me about him and how he had died.
I remember when I was a kid, he died. I remember he died.
Well, I remember us having to learn about Mandela because he died.
I remember we had a special day in school, and they turned on the TV of his funeral, and it was kind of like a 9/11 sort of day. Why am I learning about this guy Mandela? Oh, he's important, and then your teacher tells you why. We see the funeral for a few minutes during history class.
Yeah, and most people remember he died in prison. And he didn't. He died in 2013, a free man.
So when it comes to Mandela himself, Patrick and I are non-native.
Natives.
Right. You might struggle with these issues, and you're struggling with what you thought the world should be versus what you're seeing. Same thing as a breakup. It's a difficult struggle, and it can be upsetting.
And it's a world perception.
So we're gonna talk about some of these things. We're gonna try to, in talking through things, you can gather some friends who are non-native on some goofball things, and maybe you'll be able to feel a little bit lighthearted about this, because you can't take it lighthearted. The world is not crashing around you. There's other people with you. We're with you.
Yeah.
And you can join support groups, which is a bit why I stalled. I wanted to mention there's Facebook groups, there's
LinkedIn groups.
It's helpful to rely on the social structure that might or might not be available around you. You might have to kind of work on getting
social group.
It's an effort. It's always an effort to interact with people and
about something that you're
right. And maybe by talking about it on a chat, leave a comment below, and might make you feel a little bit better. We'll definitely read it.
Right. And it's always good to talk it out. to feel like you're able to vent.
Right. But this podcast will go somewhere maybe fun with this anyway. So a few I'd like to talk about is at least the Monopoly Man. The Monopoly Man has a monocle to me. He just not to me. When I look at the box, I find out now that the history of, you might not know, but the history of the Monopoly Man throughout all the time, he's never had his monocle. He's never had a monocle. The Ace Ventura movie, how does that make any sense when Ace Ventura picks up the bald guy with the monocle?
With the monocle and starts making fun of him as the Monocle Man from Monopoly.
Do not pass go.
Do not collect $200.
Right. So that joke's not going to make any sense. And there's a lot of references that don't make sense.
That don't make sense without the monocle.
Right. And suddenly it occurs to me the James Bond #1. There's a guy at CERN in the I Feel Happy video. Holds up a sign, Mandela Affect, James Bond #1. We changed it, I believe it said. And my comment there is that the teeth at the very end of James Bond #1, which I've never seen, but I know other people have, and
the braces.
Yeah, the girl has braces that Jaws falls in love with, the blonde girl, and their romance and the smile doesn't make any sense whatsoever unless the girl has braces. Well, she doesn't have braces anymore.
So the scene doesn't make sense.
You can grab a VHS that has been sitting in your closet since whenever they made the VHS for Jaws, and that does not have the braces in it, which is impossible. And I have no stake in this one, but some of you at home might be, no, everything he's saying right now is crazy. Go ahead, go watch James Bond #1 with the Jaws guy, who's, I know him as Brother Justin.
Brother Justin from
Carnival. He was in Highlander.
He was in Highlander as the evil guy, Kurg.
The Kurgie.
And he's in a couple of things. He's quite famous.
Anyway, before we move off the Monopoly Man, if it's all right.
Yeah.
The Monopoly Man, the thing to note, why the Monopoly Man is noteworthy, is that he used to have his monocle, which was which became
a symbol of wealth.
That's right. Or it was a holdover from the 20s and the 10s, with the shoes that had the white collars around them,
and
the cane that a gentleman carried with a little brass ring in it that I believe
fob watch,
and the Monopoly Man's and the top hat. The Monopoly Man's monocle was his symbol, and now he's lost his symbol. So that's, if you're a non-native on this one, which I'm having issues now just dealing with the world that's changed. Like that. Just being in a world that's not consistent. And here at Crazy Town, we build steam as we go, and so we're going to get deeper down the rabbit hole, but I have some notes that maybe are soothing, is what I'm getting at. So the Monopoly Man used to have a symbol of power, now he's lost his power. That's noteworthy. And there was no point in any advertising campaign which Monopoly boards had a Monocle Man. Did you have some note?
Not as far as the Monopoly Man goes, but I wanted to keep going as far as movies and media is more what I wanted to go for. In the media, there's lots of Mandela effects that have to do with lines. People just changing up the movie lines in general.
Yeah.
One of them being, Luke, I am your father. And that's now changed to, no, I am your father.
Is it? And it's not Luke. And James Earl Jones even recalls.
And James Earl Jones even recalls that that he remembers saying, Luke, I am your father. So that's really bizarre. And there's other ones like that.
Okay, so I don't have a Monopoly Man-esque note for that. As far as I know, it's a side effect of a larger change. Okay, so there was the day, my note with Star Wars is that there was a change-up that somebody interfered with Star Wars. And the day that they were there is the day that the actor who was playing C-3PO, like if you had a time machine and you would go back in time, you could find this person.
Yeah.
Or one of them who's fiddling around with the original Star Wars notes. Right. C-3PO, the actor, the very thin actor who saw the Jodorowsky's Dune book, the wonderful
Yeah.
Yeah, that did all art and studio production for
from Giger and all types of other artists.
Like 1,000 films from Superman Lives, Brainiac. All kinds of films came out of this notebook. One of which was Star Wars. There was a painting. The actor who played C-3PO fell in love with this painting of Dune and this distant guy in metal. He thought he was a robot way off in the distance. And I think that artist came over to Star Wars, brought stuff with him. They put the actor in this gold suit, walking around in Tunisia. The right, whatever leg of his suit was knifing into the tendons that connect your foot to your calf, your shin.
Yeah.
And it was causing him
problems.
Right. So he had to finally stop and say, I can't take another step. You have to take this thing off me. Like a change needs to happen. This, my one foot's longer than the other, and the short leg is getting injured. So they had to do something and switch up his leg cast. Okay. So this is where the silver leg, when the leg cast comes back, now it's silver. And that's where the change is made.
Whereas before, it was always gold.
Right. So if you had a time machine, you go back in time and find whoever made this fiddly change with the silver versus gold leg. Somebody got away with the original C-3PO gold leg somewhere, and it's a trophy. It's a trophy. Now, how that came to be? How did the Monopoly Man lose his monocle? So there's somebody fiddling around with Star Wars. Somebody fiddled around with the Monopoly Man's monocle, but the Monopoly Man, there's a point to it, and it's that you depower the symbol of power, which brings me to the Ford symbol. And I like to stay away from advertising, but I would like to say that I went to school with the Fords. I know these people. I spent 2 years in high school and this prep school that Sonny Ford went to. You've never met a more pasty-faced, nothing person. And their whole family, they're just like the kings of England, the queens of England. Just, Plumbo, what on earth is that? They're just totally detached from the world and have no real opinions on anything because nothing matters.
Yeah.
So these people have great wealth. I mean, incredible wealth. I think Sonny had a turntable in his garage with 16 cars that just spun around like on this record thing that was made out of cement. It was the Batman. Right, so Batman has his one Batmobile.
He has 16.
He has 16 with plenty of room in between the 16. It's ridiculous. So anyway, the change with the Fords is now there's a pig tail on the middle bar of the Ford symbol. And I'm not going to claim that I ever saw Sonny's signature. He was in the grade above me. Or any of his great-grandfather's
They definitely wouldn't put a pigtail on anything.
On their own signature. And my uncles have worked for Ford forever. And if I really wanted to start to bring up these sort of... If I wanted to give them issues, I would point out that, hey, do you remember how this didn't have a pigtail? And I mentioned it to one of them. He started to get creeped out. And yes, of course he remembered it. Okay, so now he's... unfortunately non-native and prone to anxiety about the world cracking apart and splintering into some sort of confusion. So that's why we're talking.
Yeah.
So your world's not splintering apart. Let's just first say that. There's people that you can reach out to no matter what your situation is. You can take some time and find a way to just, connect with somebody and maybe bring up some weird stuff because it's fun to talk about weird stuff. Personally, I know that Steven Seagal cut this movie back in the 90s.
About a cat. Him as a cop with a cat partner. And it was...
The cat was a cartoon cat.
The cat was a cartoon cat.
It was like Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
It was like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but with this bonkers-ish cat...
And Steven Seagal.
Now you can't find it.
You can't find it anywhere. I don't know if Steven Seagal had the movie erased from the planet, bought every VHS, lit the original copy on fire, neck snapped everybody who
ever dealt with it.
Right? What happened to this film? Okay, so assuming that it is a Mandela Effect kind of thing. By the way, it was shot, Steven Seagal's police department had the
same police department
from Not True Lies, Last Action Hero.
The chief of the police had the same desk
I can't remember whether or not it was the same black cop from Last Action Hero who was the chief of police, but I do remember they tried to put this stereotypical chief of police who yelled up at the top of this. They were like practically mimicking Last Action Hero. I can't remember which came out first, which came out last, but
probably Last Action Hero first.
They were in a tight. I believe it was Last Action Hero, and I believe it was like studio espionage was like half of this film.
Yeah,
and they definitely used that same police station. I think it's like a bank or something in L.A. I want to watch this movie. It's not.
But it's not.
Does
available.
it exist? Does it not exist? Anyway, it's
It's hard.
It's fun to bring it up in a certain way, and it's easier because I don't know whether or not it's a Mandela Effect to a certain degree. I would like to mention some other ones. We have a couple notes here. There's the Shazam film.
The Shazam film. Everyone thinks that this movie exists.
Did you see Shazam?
I could have sworn I saw Shazam.
I saw Shazam. I know he had the purple and the gold, and it was I want to say bedazzled, but so I don't have any sort of background.
I remember him taking a shower. I know that.
Oh my god, I do. I remember the shower cap.
See?
Did he even have hair? No, he.
See, I just remember that. And I remember him being a taxi driver. And why would I remember him being a taxi driver when Kazam, which is what everyone supposedly gets this confused with, which is the Shaquille O'Neal Genie movie?
Oh, you know what? I started to do it just now in my head when I said, was he bald? I started to do it. See, and that was it. False memories can creep in, and it did on me because I immediately started confusing Sinbad with the Shaquille O'Neal movie, right?
And the deal is Shaquille O'Neal in that movie or in any other movie never played a taxi driver.
Yeah, see, the taxi driver, you can't mess around with me about the taxi driver thing. I know that I watched
Sinbad as a taxi driver.
I wanted to confuse the names.
Because Sinbad's never been a taxi driver in anything. Nor has Shaquille O'Neal. So there's no way to confuse
and Sinbad himself is like, no, this movie never happened. But by the way, I know what the cover looks like. And just by my reference in my head, it's something similar to the cover of Pump Up the Volume. It's got very weird jigsaw-y letters, very strange font. Anyway, so moving on from that, I have all these pictures on my computer of Faruqa Balk from The Craft. Okay, and she was, as a young girl, she was the actress in
the second Wizard of Oz.
Right. And recently, season 1 of Emerald City was out, and as Patrick was watching it, I would pop in the room here and there. I wasn't really interested in it, but
I had Faruqa Balk.
I was very interested to check out Faruqa Balk again. Balk, sorry. And frankly, I've had a crush on her. You know, a kid crush on her. She's a good 10 years older than me, and you know, there's been moments where that crush has definitely not been her vibe from me or whatever that is. But then I saw her again in Emerald City, and all of a sudden I have a crush on her again because the way she looks in Emerald City and whatnot, you know, taking care of herself and was her cool, dark, emo self again.
Now, it's not her anymore. It's this...
Oh, God. There was interviews. I watched interviews where she was talking about her old days and how on the set people thought she was a witch. And it became this vibe, and she got painted into a corner throughout the years. And she had all these emotions about it. And
this was perfect venue for her.
Right, because now she was kind of like past it, grown up past it, and even been able to come back around and play those roles again. I'm quoting her word for word now.
Yeah.
So I put all these nice old The Craft images of Faruqa Balk on my screensaver. It's kind of fun, you know, it's really neato black and white images of her from when she was very young, and
now she's gone.
Right, so I go to look up season 2 of Emerald City, and Patrick informs me that on the internet it says that she's not going to be in it in season 2. And then, okay, I'd like to watch season 1 again and see her in season 1. And then he's looking at the cast on IMDb. She was never in it, and she's never been in it. She was never
seen interviews.
I woke up. Patrick and I both watched season 1 with Faruqa Balk
and doing interviews.
And it was kind of cool because it was like Faruqa Balk's comeback. And she made a ton of money. She was making buco bucks, you know. It was kind of like...
Good money.
What's the guy who played the year of Brolin?
Yeah.
Right? So it was kind of like a
year of...
Faruqa Balk's comeback. A little bit, you know.
Especially, it was. Yeah, because The Craft 2 was about to come out. And still, like, might be.
And she was going to... That's right. And she was going to make... Well, anyway, and I put all these images... So she was never in The Craft. And it's not that I confused her with whoever...
Not The Craft, but the...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Emerald City.
It's not that I confused her with whoever and their similar face. I don't even know who's the girl that's in Emerald City. I've never seen the girl that's in Emerald City now.
But it's not Faruqa Balk, and we know it was.
Yeah, so... You know, I feel bad that she lost out on that opportunity. There was a reality where she got a lot of media presence, and it was a good one. And I miss that reality. That was a couple months ago, as far as I'm concerned. So there was some sort of change. No, I didn't notice it. It was in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, or at least that's when I noticed it, in the last 3 months. And I'm kind of shaking a little bit on the inside over this. It's difficult. These things are difficult to... You try telling a little kid that his world is completely upside down somehow.
Yeah.
Anyway, the child inside me is...
You know, for how many people, especially like mom's age or even a little bit younger, and our age as well. Bobby's World. You remember the cartoon Bobby's World?
Right.
All right. Now, what if we were to say Bob Saget died during the making of Bobby's World?
Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah, and so halfway through Bobby's World, and we depleted ourselves half the episodes of Bobby's World. That would be that would be horrible.
Okay. Yeah,
Louis Anderson.
Louis Anderson. Okay, so Louis Anderson died how many years ago? Like 13? I can't...
He died during Life with Louis.
And it was sad, and it was like
really
one of the big comedians went down.
And for me and for mom's generation and others, it's depleted us of that many years of comedy from
Right. And then was it right before or right after that John Goodman died?
It was a couple of years after that.
Okay, so John Goodman died. You may be sitting at home like, yeah, and John Goodman's alive. Or you might be at home sitting, wait, John Goodman's alive? Yeah, what's the problem? What do you mean John Goodman died? There's an enormous number of people who know for a fact that John Goodman have died, sometimes even twice.
Yep. I remember him dying twice.
He died sometime around The Borrowers or The West Wing.
The Borrowers was one because in The Borrowers...
Had a heart attack.
Yeah, and I remember they were commemorating The Borrowers to him. You know, like in memoriam of...
Yeah. And they said his heart exploded. It exploded. And I remember when he was in The West Wing, he said, we're going to have to find a vice president. We're going to have to get into this pretty soon here. Some variation of that. Because I'm about 2 cheeseburgers away from a heart attack, some close. And you would see him walk around in The West Wing. And they kind of worked it with the camera, but they really didn't have to much.
No.
He was a kingpin-sized figure on the world. Of just a
gigantic man. And an imposing man.
So, yeah. It makes me sad. I like that John Goodman's alive.
I do too, but there was also the West Wing incident, I think, as well. Yeah.
Now, was that because his heart was too large? I vaguely thought it was because his heart had grown too large.
No, that one I believe was just a regular heart attack, whereas the first one, his heart was too large.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I had it backwards?
Yeah, I believe so.
Well, now you want to point a finger and say false memory. You at home, maybe a person who remembers he dying from his heart growing too large. You may remember him dying from a massive coronary embolism. But if you remember one or the other, you might be a non-native on that, and I am on both of them, which is impossible. Nobody dies twice unless...
No.
That's just... You start to get into religious talk if you really want to. And I don't think that John Goodman is the second coming.
No, he's definitely not.
But I still have...
Maybe of comedy.
My opinion. my my opinion is troubling to me. And it's hard to work through, and you have to do something with that. So there's a point to bringing up John Goodman, and that's that people have noticed a physiological difference in skeletal system and organ setup.
Yeah, the way our body has changed.
Sure.
Evolved, I guess you want to say, but like side evolved.
Okay, so
our hearts are in a different place.
And I asked my mother about this. My mother was a nurse for her whole entire career. I don't know, 30 years or whatever. I asked her about the changes that were pointed out online, and she remembered certain things, and other things she had a different opinion than what I had. Which, yeah, 6 people, you get 6 different opinions. But I also know that she taught me that the heart was on the left side of the body. The Romans, the United States, we're just Romans 4.0 or something like that.
Yeah, that's why we put our hand, but that's not really how it is.
We put our hands over the left side of our heart.
Yeah.
Left side of our chest, because that's where the hand's closer to the heart. We put the Romans and us, we put the ring, the marriage on the ring finger, because there's a vein that runs up that side of the finger and arm, and being that your heart is on the left side, it runs, that finger is closer to the left side. Yes, that's correct.
To the heart.
So it's closer to the heart. So that's why and that's why hand over the left side of the chest. My mother, nurse, her 30-year career, tells me, no, it's the center. It's the center. Well, I always was taught it was on the left. I remember it being on the left. She says that she never taught me such things. And the history of the world records that she never taught me such things. Well, that's okay. Well, what else is there? Well, the skeletal changes. I mean, unless you have something to point out here off the bat, Pat, we have now, is it small holes behind our eye sockets, behind our eyeballs? And I always knew them to be the huge gaping holes, just this big hole into the back of your head. The heart is now larger. The liver is like 30% larger.
It's way bigger.
Way bigger.
The heart is like 10% bigger.
There's a difference in the rib cage now. And the difference in the rib cage, if you look at the chimpanzee rib cage, you look at the former rib cage, you look at the new rib cage, it's an updated rib cage. It's as if a modern, or even somebody farther down the line, inputted their DNA farther in the past in a major, major way. I mean, the first blue-eyed person kind of way. And then those genes precipitated downward in a very strong way with a tighter, more, I don't know, like the little grays with the big eyes or whatever, and they got the thinner limbs, and the rib cage is slit. Yeah, that's our new rib cage. It's more rounded, less good at take barrel punches, I'd say.
Yeah.
Something like that, but better at storing more organs. I don't know.
But yeah, it's better at storing.
Is that what the difference is?
Yeah.
I think I'm drifting away from my expertise here, but the last one I want to mention is the brain stem is now farther into our neck. We have the little bump on the back of our skull, and that's where the brain stem used to connect on the back of our heads. And now the vertebrae takes this hard, jagged inward into your neck, way away from that bump. That bump doesn't connect to anything anymore. The bump that's on your head that connects to the back of your spinal cord, it doesn't connect to your spinal cord. Your spinal cord is now way in your neck.
Yeah.
And apparently it always was, which means that I want to call it the occipital bump, but I know I'm wrong. That little nodule makes no sense. Well, why would you want your spinal cord to be farther? Well, maybe and this is just me being silly here, but it makes sense if there was somebody important back in the day that got stilettoed in the back of their neck. And aside from that, that's almost upsettingly goof. Aside from that, it was mentioned in Star Trek by, I think, one. I walked around Star Trek Voyager. He just started randomly noticing species and listing off the best way to murder them. I think something about a Klingon stabbing between the crest on their forehead. And for us, it was a stab right to that place in the back of your neck. Right?
Yeah.
So now that's a little bit more protected. The heart's larger. now, from what I understand. Well, John Goodman's alive. The heart is larger.
Yeah.
As in a functional way. That keeps a functional larger heart per person.
Keeps a function.
Has an effect down the line of keeping John Goodman
alive.
The point might not have been to keep John Goodman alive.
Yeah.
But the effect keeps John Goodman alive.
And there's another point I want to bring back to
thousands of years later, maybe. I'm not.
Another good point I want to bring
down the rabbit hole
with Louis Anderson.
Sure.
And that it's if Louis Anderson had been around this whole time, why were we robbed of 15 years of his comedy? And all of a sudden, now he's doing comedy. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not fair.
There's videos where you can watch a car, and I might have to come back to this, but there's videos where you can watch a car driving down the freeway, and it disappears for a little bit, and then it reappears, 30, 40 yards down the road, as if nothing, meters, maybe, if you're European, as if nothing ever happened.
Right.
There's been weirder things where a man, I believe, whatever, pulled up to a stop sign, and across the street was like the 1920s with Model T cars or something like that, and they waved at each other or something, and then when she pulled across the street, the weather was different, the sun was a different time, and the woman was surprised to see her in her different car, the 1920s or whatever it is, 40, something like that woman. I'm kind of sketchy on the story, but there seemed to be a slice of a time slip. And you call them time slips. You can look them up online. There's lots of them. And it's almost as if a ray or a wave of, I don't know, let's play Star Trek and call them a tachyon wave, passes through from an origin backwards through a slice of the Earth, and some sort of wave whose amplitude constitutes the difference between 1940 and 1990. The light passes through. You can pass through it, and the wave is still beaming through. Yeah. You keep on moving, and you've moved out of the zone of the wave. And now you're back into your time zone, which seemed to be what happened to this woman. Okay. So that's a weird, interesting Star Trek-y way of thinking about it. Some sort of just strange convergence of waves. Yeah. Now, if you really think about it, as the Earth moves through space, there's no way to just Professor Farnsworth, Terminator 2, zip from the time period we're at now. We're sitting here. You're sitting wherever you're at. You can't just go from where you're at, bam, tachyons or some such, and now you're in the same exact spot except 40 years ago. That doesn't happen. And but we've just described a bunch of scenarios where that's basically what's going on. But as the Earth moves through space, if you were to instantly zap yourself to 24 hours ago, the Earth has moved on at 18,000 miles an hour and is exactly 1 unit of the Earth away from you. And so if I were to instantly beam backwards or forwards in time 24 hours, I might find myself in the same... what's your coordinate system is the problem right there. I'm just kind of saying, first off, that you can't time travel in the spot you're at. That doesn't make sense because the Earth moves and the sun moves and the galaxy moves and it's constantly spinning. There's a Vsauce video, how the Earth moves. Vsauce, good video. And you would be in the middle of space. If I was to beam to where, because the Earth is 1 unit of the Earth farther away tomorrow, 24 hours means I am now in the center of space and So there's problems with time travel. Yes. Unless you have a coordinate system. Your coordinate system is your most important thing. And I really want to get back to the Mandela Effect. But I will say this, that you normally hear there's four temporal, spatial, 4 time, space dimensions, 4 of them, right? You have your 3 space dimensions, X, Y, Z, up, down, left, right, side, side, and then a time dimension. Time is not your 4th dimension. Time is your 1st dimension. Okay. Time is dimension number 1. It moves at the speed of light. Yeah. It's time, and it gets warped through different medium. through a high gravity intensive field. It kind of slows down. In the medium of water, lots of particles, lots of gravity, gets to about half. Less distortion of the field around it, moves closer to full speed of light. Okay, that's the speed. That's your time dimension. It's your first dimension. You build your coordinate system from there. Now maybe you can use your Professor Farnsworth pod.
Right.
Okay, so I'd like to get back to so just know at the very least that time travel, number one, involves coordinate systems and being very precise at where you're coming and going. And as far as crazy tachyon rays or concussion bursts from maybe somebody arriving or leaving in some sort of technology we don't have at the present moment, there's been stories where on the internet where people will see this rainbow wave wash across the sky after seeing a light in the distance by a farm field. And then part of this wave may have to do with a time slip.
Right.
I think the lady who was crossing the street, she had
the time slip.
And she had noticed this rainbow wave in the sky. Okay. So potential working theory for when people arrive or leave in time, maybe
rainbow time slip.
Yeah, at least if there's a lot of power being let off, and maybe those concussions lapped upon each other through space have some sort of cumulative effect.
Yeah.
Make some sort of strange attractor jagged path as you move or something.
Yeah.
But that might be why, let's say, the man from Taured may have slipped realities or something like that due to some sort of slider technology that left behind waves, some sort of tachyon, some dealy that left behind waves, some accidental screwing around with time or space or some such, I don't know, natural phenomena.
Yeah.
The man from Taured, he was a guy who he was from a country called Taured, and I actually figured out what the history was of Taured. It's where I think it's Andorra is.
Okay.
It's right between Spain and France. It's where the Basque people are from, and they have a certain dialect. They're very old. They're almost like European Aborigines.
Old.
Right, old.
Original.
Yeah, of the area. The Picts of Ireland, I believe, are kind of described in the same sort of way. They're the Aborigines of Europe as well, the Picts.
Okay.
The Picts and the Basque language is unique all to its own. And there was a battle I figured out what the battle was at one point. It was in the year 900, something like that, 997, I want to say. And the guy from Taured was like, yeah, my country's existed for 1,000 years. Well, I think it was sometime in the 900s.
Taured went down.
Right. There was a battle. They won the battle in the man from Taured's time. Somehow he got shifted over into a reality where he had currency, and I believe it was 1955, he was in a Japanese airport. 1 minute he was standing there ready to have his business meeting the next day, and the next minute none of his currency makes any sense. His passport doesn't make any sense. He's not from a reality that makes any sense anymore. These are related.
Yeah.
These are related. There was also the incident, which may or may not be so related to the Mandela Effect, but that gentleman from Taured was really having a bad Mandela Effect day.
Yeah.
He was. He's from a country that they showed him a map, and they said, point to your country on a map, the Japanese officials, and he said, it's right here, where's my country? And they said, yeah, exactly. And he said, my country's existed for 1,000 years, what are you talking about? That's a bad Mandela Effect day.
Okay. Yes, it is. That's a bad day for anybody.
Right. Needed to talk to somebody. So in that, I'd also like to mention briefly that there was a guy who was walking around in the late 1800s, and it seemed like he bounced exactly 100 years. So 1850s, and ended up in the 1950s. He had change in his pockets from back in the day. He had a receipt for a mustache barbershop appointment or something like that. He had another thing in his pocket about renting a stable for a horse, and had business appointments, something about a bank that doesn't exist anymore. I don't know. There were
lots of things.
And he suddenly, from his point of view, appeared in 1955 in the middle of Times Square, New York, and got ran over. There was another guy who
went in the Civil War. Appeared in the Civil War.
Oh yeah, he got shot in the butt, didn't he? He was like
yeah, he got shot in the butt.
He was an American, wasn't he?
He was an American, got shot in the butt, and I believe the French
had no idea what to do with him.
Yeah, it was the French that saved him.
Yeah, he was. They found him in a front, and then I think that incident got around, and it's in a movie somewhere.
Yeah, he disappeared.
It's like in 12 Monkeys or something like that. It's some sort of mixed up version of the tale.
Yeah, it is a mixed up version of the tale, but he just disappeared, and nobody knows what to deal with him.
Yeah, and the guy from Tor just disappeared. There was a guy from somewhere called Lorian or he spoke Loxanian or something.
Lorian.
That guy disappeared. Anyway, so not to go too down farther, crazy hole.
But there are instances of
things that don't make sense.
Things that don't make sense and could be time travel-y.
Right?
Right, and our explanation for Mandela Affect, for the most part, is time travel. Or some other conspiracy theories like aliens.
So
there's lots of them.
He's a medical doctor. He lives in Asia somewhere. I heard him giving a YouTube sort of podcasty lecture about this. And he was pointing out things like the Monopoly Man had lost his symbol of power. I mentioned the Mr. Rogers, how it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and now it's somehow our neighborhood, and it's almost the opposite of Monopoly Man. So the Monopoly Man had power, now he's lost it. It's almost like a middle finger to rich establishment, upper class. Same with the pigtail on the Ford symbol. Middle finger to these guys that just live, harvest the wealth of millions. Anyway, the point is there's two forces at work, is what the guy was getting at, apparently. So there's two inclinations. The inclination of the rich man to try to take from poor. And then there's the inclination to put a middle finger to the establishment and to those who are wealthy and those who are in charge. And even down to names like Ford. Okay? So that's what this Asian doctor guy, he had like 2 different doctorates. One was in neurosurgery. He was a neurosurgeon, I believe. The guy was awesome anyway. And he was pointing out that he had noticed that the changes don't matter. The missing a bar in the Kit Kat or whatever, that doesn't matter. What matters is the message behind it. So you don't spend time worrying whether or not the Mr. Rogers song got changed from a beautiful day in the neighborhood to the beautiful day in our neighborhood. That don't waste your time getting lost in how many changes there are across the timeline. Notice that there's just maybe messages behind some of this stuff. So the Monopoly Man, the message is, I took away your power. The message is, screw you on the pigtail. Right. Screw you pigs, kind of a thing. The message from the other group is, hey, this is not the neighborhood. It's not ecumenical. It's not good for everyone. It's our neighborhood. It's inclusive. It's us. So it puts a different spin on these things. And there's a thing in the Bible that is that same change affected by seemingly establishment forces.
Yeah.
It has to do with the lion laying with the lamb, and the lion shall lay with the lamb.
Okay.
Now it says something about, and the wolf shall lay with the lamb, or something about that. It's very odd, and it's an odd change, and it gets rid of the peace of the message. And this one is, I should look it up. Corinthians something.
Well, I can just look it up real quick. I have my computer right here.
All right. Well, it's just, how creepy is that to have the Bible changed? And that is a problem for, a billion people on the planet to go back to just
the Bible changed.
To have wrong things that, and it's something about a wolf, and the wolf used to be a symbol that the Romans put at the head of their Senate, very threatening, and here the strong shall rule. It was the way of Rome, the strong shall rule. And Jesus came along and made one of the first great political speeches, blessed are the meek. Not blessed are the strong, and the bullies deserve to have more, and they'll be bigger bullies, and that's the way things should move forward in time, is everybody just clubbing each other over the head, and the biggest thug wins. Right. No, blessed are the meek. let's try to keep some people alive. Maybe we'll get some dorks out of this and have a space program down the line, is what I'm thinking. Anyway, it's just my thoughts.
I have it up if you want.
Yeah, what is it?
It's Isaiah 11:6.
Yeah, good enough. I'm not down for quoting Bible verses too much. Just Isaiah 11:6, and that's messed up to have the Bible changed. All right, and just finishing up the body thing real quick. The liver, a 30% larger liver.
Right.
While we might not need it right now,
we will.
Yeah, as the world gets more
shittier,
poisonous, more pollution, we're going to need that extra 30%
liver.
That's going to
process sugar and
it's
process all types of
just toxins out of your body. Yeah, we're going to need that. It's going to come in handy. So we got away from all the fun stuff for a second there. Ninja Turtles?
Ninja Turtles? Yeah.
Now, let's see. What's the weird thing about Ninja Turtles? Well, other than there's monsters now.
Yeah.
There didn't used to be monsters. They
used to be kid-friendly and, nice.
And just before I get to the Ninja Turtles, I wanted to mention the thing with the comic book wars where
he goes into a comic book store and the guy he looks around and a guy gives him a girl shows him this comic book and
there was a cutout
for
the Flash as a Marvel character and Daredevil as a
DC character,
which had been lost during the comic book wars.
Right. And the guy looked at her like, what the heck are you talking about? And she goes, the comic book wars, and he's like, no, I don't.
Right, bought some comic books from the Flash as a Marvel character, bought the Daredevil as
a DC character.
And I do remember there was like some sort of weird team-up-y thing, like briefly, like for like 5
seconds, but this seemed like it was a much bigger deal.
Yeah, well, he bought comic books that don't exist.
Yeah.
But there is still remnants, I guess,
of the version.
Yeah, of the deal, or that was, I guess, struck out and somewhere else in the multiverse. Somewhere else along the central finite curve, as Rick and Morty like to put it. 30 iterations off the central finite curve. There's a Rick who deals more with wood than polarized electroplating.
And that's fine.
All right, so that's kind of far down the rabbit hole, which, before I move on to the next story I wanted to mention down the rabbit hole, I want you to mention Queen.
Yes. So there's a lot of references to this. There's Queen of the World.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's Rocky IV. Then he's fighting the Russian. There's no reason they would have had that song.
Well, that's the Olympics, not the Rocky IV.
The Olympics had it as well.
Okay, so you can watch the tape of the I don't know what Olympics, but it's the Olympics.
It's like 1980.
It's the one where Queen did the big song at the end of the Olympics. We are the champions of the world. And there's even a fun YouTube video with George Clooney sitting in the car. The comedian interviewer guy is driving. Julia Roberts is sitting in the back. Gwen Stefani is
sitting in the back.
No, Gwen Stefani's passenger.
Okay.
Clooney's in the back. Julia Roberts is in the back. And they're listening to that song, the Queen song.
And it cuts to the end.
And the song just stops. You go, we will...
we
I keep doing
are the champions.
And then, it goes through the whole thing.
And then it ends.
And then it ends. And George Clooney and they're all sitting there like, dumbfounded that they didn't hear of the world. George
Clooney finally finishes it off.
Right, like several seconds after when he should have heard it. And they all joined in because they know that's how the song
should end.
Right. So go ahead, put in that song. If it's the original track, it does not end with of the world. That song was, I believe, written for the Olympics.
I believe it was.
It was definitely performed for the Olympics because it was for the world. We are the champions of the world at the Olympics. Right, totally makes sense. Now, why would the tape of the Olympics where they're singing the song and it doesn't say of the world at the end. Why would that make any sense?
Yeah.
Why would George Clooney sing that song if it's not in there? Why would James Earl Jones and even Christmas ornaments
do that?
To say that
Luke, I am your father.
If that was never a line in the movie. Now, you can say something about, oh, well, humans are deficient and false memories, but you're ignoring, I don't know, this weird collective union psychology collective unconscious.
Of our pop culture.
Right, this shared memory. Now, okay, so what? Are we all then psychic and wrong at the same time? We have this virus that's being passed around psychically?
No.
You know, well, I'm not that good at reading other people's thoughts.
Yeah,
it's not creeping into my dreams. I know that John Goodman died, and not to return to that, but, you know,
that happened.
All right.
Louis Anderson, which I keep going back to, just because he was
absent for
so long.
There's weird things in the Bible now, where Rome's got the strong shall rule symbol instead of the classical lion symbol.
Right.
Very, very, very odd. And speaking of which, the Bible, the first 5 books of the Bible, now that change we're talking about, that's in the New Testament. The Old Testament, the Torah is the first 5 books of the Bible. They are in one block of letters, and every 5th letter, and I don't know what you go a couple of letters in, and then every 5th letter says T, like 4 or 5 more letters, 5 more letters, O, 5 more letters, R, 5 more letters, A, Torah, 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 written through the entire Old Testament. Now, if you do that to a text that you're writing, it's going to alter the content of the text. It's going to take whatever you had and turn it into something kind of goofy. No matter,
it's kind of like the Harry Potter AI.
Yeah, they tried to write Harry Potter book, and it makes no sense.
Kind of it's insulting.
A little, right. So if you read the ancient Sumerian texts, the Akkadian translations from it, the Babylonian version of the Epic of Creation, which comes before the Epic of Gilgamesh, they're the longer versions of the Old Testament. They're longer, richer,
and more fulfilled.
More filled out. And when you read all of those, and then come back to the Old Testament and read it again, it's like a very strange Crayola version.
Of itself?
Of itself, yeah. Noah is called Upanoptism by the Sumerians, and you know, it's the same tale over and over again.
And the same tales pop up in lots of religious culture.
Right. So it's crazy to go back in the time. It's not crazy. Somebody way back in the day could have wrote the entire Old Testament, T-O-R. Maybe different people worked on it, got it just right. You know? Yeah. But at the same time,
how likely?
And there's this Bible code thing, and it's just very strange. Very strange. So before I get any farther into things I don't want to talk about because they're just too weird, I would like to mention I'm stalling here, dude and his wife. It's the last note I have, and it's the story of the dude and his wife. So there was a gentleman that woke up one day, and he had gone to bed the night before. He was a single guy, this chubby guy with a beard. Went to bed the night before and had a bachelor's apartment, right? Wakes up the next day and there's a woman sleeping next to him. Or I don't even think he realized it at first. I think he started brushing his teeth and stuff like that.
And then realized there was a woman in his bed.
Yeah, there's a woman. He realizes at some point there's a woman in his bed. And he thinks maybe he had drank the night before. Or maybe he had drank the night before, but he thinks maybe he had forgotten something.
Yeah, and something's off.
Yeah, he just thought he just drifted and somehow scored, or maybe somebody sleepwalked into. I think I remember him saying something about thought maybe a woman had right, and it's not good to wake people sleepwalking, and didn't want her screaming and stabbing him or whatever or something like that. But maybe I don't know. I remember him venting or voicing those thoughts. Wakes up and wakes her. She wakes up. He wakes her up, whatever. She eventually,
he gets up out of bed.
Right, and it's, who are you? Why are
you here?
I don't remember. What are you talking about? What? Oh, you're silly. You're playing a silly game today, she says, or something like that.
Yeah.
And
clearly knows him.
I think he said he went to go have breakfast and come back at the situation or something like that. This lady's deranged. I don't know what's going on. I didn't spend that much time with her. Then conversation and, we're married.
And he's like, okay, now you really...
Yes. Yeah, yes.
I met the strange one.
I don't recall whether the gentleman that said something about, was it a night at Vegas or something like that I blacked out on? Did I do mushrooms? Did somebody hit me over the head? Is this a joke? She's a scam artist? I think he thought something about it, scam artist. But he's wearing a wedding ring. And not only that, underneath the wedding ring, the wedding ring's been on there.
It's tan.
It's a
there's the ring line.
And he's looking around his house. And her story holds muster. Her story holds up. Because
there's pictures.
Where's his stuff? And why are there pillows on the bed? And what's with the frou-frou furniture? Okay?
So this isn't my apartment.
So
unless I fell asleep for 10 years.
Yeah, this is a major issue of some kind, and it's brewing, right? And what I'm saying to you, it was never presented to me as any sort of a joke. This is
a real tale.
So, of Mandela Affect issues. And he's talking to the woman. She convinces him somehow that she belongs, that he's out of his mind, she's just making it clear, we're married, I love you. And that's weird for him because he's a dork. A chubby dork with a beard.
And doesn't know a thing about her.
Doesn't know a thing about her. She knows all kinds of things about him. Right? And knows all kinds of things about him, has all these references that, says the whole apartment, he's been abducted to the Twilight Zone. He's having the same day as the man from Tarad.
Right.
He hasn't slipped in time or anything, but man, he's gone sideways somehow.
And it's not good.
Yeah, there was also a lady who was from Spain, and her work got swapped around on her office.
Yeah, that's right.
And she woke up with her ex-boyfriend as now her fiance. So the story with the dork gentleman, I got through her story quickly there. The story with the dorky guy, and I think the lady was a redhead. I remember seeing the two of them. They had a little bit of a podcast for a while, visual. But she calls the wife at this point, calls her mother. She's upset. She doesn't know what to do. Her husband doesn't remember who she is. He's maybe had some sort of born identity crisis.
Something's happened.
He's had a Jason Bourne identity crisis. And she's talking to her mother, and her mother's calm down, blah, blah, blah. So she says, okay, well, I need to go. I need to get going. Maybe this phone call isn't helpful enough for her. And she says, I'm gonna call my sister. I'm gonna say Jenny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And her mother says, who? Who? You're what? I don't know whether she said sorority sister or what, but dear, you don't have a sister.
Oh God.
What do you?
That's horrible.
Yeah, what do you mean I don't have a sister? No, you've never. You don't have a half a sister. You don't
have...
This sister you're speaking of
does not exist.
Exactly. That's a problem. Okay, so now who do you turn to? Your husband, who's in the next room.
Who doesn't know who you are. Oh my God. Which one's worse? The husband who doesn't know who he is? Or the wife who now has a husband who doesn't know who he is?
Well, he
doesn't have a sister all of a sudden.
Well, from, and I don't know if their channel's still out there. I haven't come across it in quite a long time, but from what I understand, he was adjusting. And it was okay for him, because he's got this woman this wonderful woman in his life now. And she was understanding of his situation because now her sister is missing from time and space and reality and existence. So that's not a movie. That's two people's lives.
Yeah.
And
they're insane. Well, not insane.
They're insane now.
Yeah.
They've PTSD for sure.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, it's not good to focus on things that make you paranoid and give you anxiety, right? And that's why those two started up their little podcasty visual talk to the world channel, right? Because they
felt like they had went through
a thing and had some feelings about it, right? So you might be struggling with things, and you might end up going through the stages of grief about it, and it's possibly because the way you're used to looking at the world is not the future that you see marching forward. And on that note, I will say that I didn't finish up the guy from Asia, whether it be India or somewhere in Asia, the doctor.
Yeah.
He had noted that when the song Queen of the World, he had noted that what changed in that song? What was the
world.
Right. It was the world that was changed. Right. So this guy noticed that it was the world that was changed. And it's not that the song got changed, and how weird is that? Well, why did the song get changed? Well, it was the world that was changed. And there's a message sometimes that seems to be, in effect, he noticed. And
through these Mandela Affects.
Some of them. And one of them was that, not one of them, that there was, he noticed that there was what he called the whistleblowers. You have the whistleblowers, and you have, I don't know, the original thing that the whistleblower is railing against, which seems to be some sort of blessed are the wolves.
Yeah.
Corporatist, monopoly man, something to do with the Fords down the line, capitalist, elitist mentality. Maybe the Fords were just an icon in
the future
of whatever changes may have been made. Okay.
Right.
And also, there may just be random things having to do with forces that we don't understand. Some sort of pops and buzz and fuzzes and galactic what have yous.
That we don't know anything about.
That's correct. Right. The next reality over in the multiverse may be a little bit closer than you think, and it may have to do with somebody somewhere else fooling around with machines that we don't have access to and understand that they leave rainbow waves.
Right.
That we don't have access to in our normal understanding.
That leave
in the culture. And there's, maybe side effects.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider that there's these two groups that this guy noticed. There's going to be side effects. There's this, Cold War through time in a Star Trek Enterprise kind of way, maybe?
Yeah.
This guy was pointing out. So, I'm not going to knock the fact that...
It's a hypothesis.
It's a hypothesis. And I'm not going to knock the fact that I know that John Goodman died and that he's still alive, nor do I think that John Goodman is an Illuminati. And he... ... But I think it might be worth noting that just like the Monopoly Man is a symbol, his monocle is lost. And of course, we all know Jim Carrey's not a native on this issue. It might be worth noting that the world was changed in the Queen song. It might be worth noting that our heart is bigger now, and maybe that has something to do with John Goodman.
It also might have something to do with Ewing. But that's just a joke.
Ewing? You mean Magic Johnson's staying on? Magic Johnson's surviving AIDS? I think that has more to do with money and medicinal cocktails. Actually, I read up all about that. It's many doctoral theses worth of material on how to keep Magic Johnson from having full-blown AIDS.
I was just throwing that.
Yeah, well, there's another Illuminati thing you could start going crazy with, and it's not good to be paranoid. It's not good to every time I see something that maybe that's a Mandela effect. Well,
maybe that's an Illuminati.
Yeah,
it's
not worth your time unless there's maybe a whistleblower thing a message that can be sussed out of it, and it would be a light message that probably pretty obvious.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want you to go down the lizard people conspiracy hole.
Right? But we do
want you to acknowledge
that you can deal with uncomfortable feelings about what's going on here. And I brought up the time tree. I brought up the way that time is your first dimension.
Yeah.
And coordinate systems, and that was not off the beaten path, because now that we're at the end of saying all these things, we've basically said that timelines are merging.
Yeah.
We've been dancing around it for a while, but timelines supposedly is what we're talking about, is the possibility that timelines are merging. Now, what do you do with that? That's crazy pants. That's now madhouse.
Yeah.
The kaleidoscope is shattered. Everything is weird. The timelines are merging with the Brecca, Yosemite Sam. Yeah, okay, so, because what you want to do is you want to, in your brain, normally break it down like Doc Brown. You have your timeline A, and at some point, somebody went back, and the timeline skewed into the past, and now we're on timeline B. And as a result of this podcast, what is Crazy Teddy, helping us realize that timeline A and timeline B continued on and then merged back in the future as it did in the past, and now we're riding in timeline A plus timeline B. That is madness.
But that's what it is.
And that's what it is. That's what it is.
And it happens all over the place.
And it's upsetting. But it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be, because it doesn't have to be. My mother doesn't have the same set of memories as I do.
Right.
I can and probably have gone down the entire road of the stages of grief over it. And it's because the world doesn't seem... The future I expect isn't the one I'm in.
Right.
And that's what happens when you've had a loss. And it's a loss of the reality you think. But it doesn't have to be a problem, because the Queen song of the world changed. Okay, what changed? The world? Yeah. How upset do I have to get about the Queen song? Well, I know it. I know things are weird, and I know that there's
changes.
And if I didn't have any of these issues myself, I could at least respect somebody who was having these issues and not call them crazy and not think they're bizarre and not want to not talk about it with. It's more fun to get to the point where you can just be like, yeah, what are you going to do? The Bible's different.
That's interesting.
Nothing is what you seem. Well, it's not that nothing is what it seemed, or nothing is what it's just that some things
have altered.
And it's goofy. And reasons for it. I mean, how'd you like to be the guy from Torrid? His whole country disappeared. Well, it's probably because in his timeline, Caesar didn't kill off the last of the Gauls or whatever.
Right.
And, well, I guess that'd be 2,000 years ago. So, whatever happened to this guy, some battle between 900 and 1100, let's say, somewhere in there, his people, it went the other battle, right? And it went the other way, and now the Basque nation is some tiny province in Spain that's struggling politically. So there's just a multiverse out there, and there's weird things going on in the multiverse, and the world keeps on spinning.
Yeah,
the world keeps on spinning, and you can only
do so much and expect so much,
and point these things out. And I mentioned the Ninja Turtles, and speaking of pointing things out, we're going to I've kind of wrapped up all the things that Patrick and I had to note in common. So I kind of, if you don't mind, if that's okay, I'd like to go down my own little rabbit hole that I'm, as far as I know, alone on some of these weird, goofy things, and just, they might be fun in a story crafting way as far as you're concerned to just listen to. So, stories from the multiverse, more or less. Patrick and I are farther down the central finite curve from Rick and Morty, so to speak, than
most people.
Right, and so this is me being farther down the central finite curve, so to speak. So there was the Weird Al movie. UHF, right? And a lot of people were like, man, that movie was great, and it may or may not stand the test of time that well, but it was, of its time, it was freaking hilarious. It was Ren and Stimpy hilarious.
Yeah.
It was great, had a lot of...
Everyone wanted Weird Al to make another movie.
I don't think it's right, and I don't think thank you for that. I don't think it was that the movie doesn't stand the test of time, I think it's the actors didn't stand the
test of time, yeah.
Right. So before their fall... there was the other movie. And you're like, okay, so they made UHF. And I thought the movie would be called, what, VHF?
VHF.
Because there's the UHF channel, right? But it's not. It's VHS is the name of the movie. Like a VHS. I have a ton of them over here.
Yeah.
That's the name of the movie. And let me look at the old cover. Yeah, this one has the UHF in different letters. The other one had like the V was yellow and it had this the printing looked like Saved by the Bell.
Okay.
It was like a couple years later. Like I don't remember exactly when UHF came out, but it was like a couple years later. And the janitor, he was like a dude in the gray suit with the tie, and he was running like a
Night network.
He was running the network. He was like doing like a good businessy job, except they were in now the office that the network from the previous movie had. Yeah, that's what they're
evil.
The evil guys. That was their office, the network office. And Weird Al was crashing the entire economy or the entire budget of the network in order to pivot and make a movie. And he couldn't afford to make the movie in theaters, so he had to go direct to VHS. Right? Or he
direct to home video.
I just remember he wanted to make all these VHS. His idea was that he could make a ton of movie on VHS. VHSs costed a ton at the time. They were like $80 a pop or something like that. And he was going to bring the price down and sell
a ton of them.
Right. And I think he started even talking about renting it.
Okay.
And I think that might have been before Blockbuster, but at the beginning of the rental movies.
Mom Pops.
Right. And anyway, that was a goof movie. There was a time where Michael J. Fox played the Joker.
Okay.
I don't know if he didn't play the Joker over here, right?
No.
Okay, yeah, so he was a professional rival with Mark Hamill.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I apologize. He played the cartoon Joker. He played the voice of the Joker.
The cartoon Joker.
Right. He was never the live action Joker.
He was the cartoon.
Right. And so he and Mark Hamill had an animosity. And his Parkinson's really bad over here because it's. I mean, he had it, but it wasn't. Really he was okay. It's really bad over here.
Yeah, it's really bad over here.
Okay. There was the one that gets me the most is the monsters, the Ninja Turtle monsters. There's two of them. I don't know how you make two Ninja Turtles movies with monsters, and like how did Michael Bay get away
with it? It was awful.
Okay, so sometime before the first and second Ninja Turtles movie, right? There was. Well, I guess it doesn't exist here. Okay, so I'll try to get the image and put it up on the YouTube version of this and the SoundCloud version of the podcast. We're on SoundCloud now and Twitch.
Yes.
And we have a Twitter account. But it's all Crazy Town with an E every time. But I'll try to put the image up of the Ninja Turtles that I saw that had Michelangelo. I have an image on my computer, and it was from the test screening.
Okay.
Of the Ninja Turtles that doesn't exist. Right. But the remnants are around, and some studio or somebody, I guess before Michael Bay got his fingers into it, had made a 3D live-action version of the Ninja Turtles that were much more fun. They had the big hands and feet, and the toys had the big hands and feet. Very poofy looking with thin shoulders.
But as a movie.
But as a movie. And the shoulders weren't... I know the cartoon, they've got really thin shoulders, and it wasn't quite as thin as that, you know.
Okay.
And it looked good. It looked fun. Michelangelo looks good. Maybe I'll just put Michelangelo over this whole as the thumbnail. I'll put Michelangelo
as the thumbnail.
Right. Anyway, so that was a movie. It made a ton of money. And way more than because I guess over here the second Ninja Turtles made more money than the first.
By far.
Right? And all I know of is there was the Ninja Turtles with the big hands and feet movie, and then all of a sudden there were the monsters.
The Michael Bay monsters. And then there was a second Michael Bay monsters, and at that point I was just like, wow, what happened? What happened? You got it, man. So that was an issue for me.
one I remembered that was from back in the day that Patrick doesn't seem to remember is the Mask 2. So the Mask 2 over here was not played
by
Jim Carrey, right. Jim Carrey wasn't in the Mask 2.
No. There's not a Mask 2 with Jim Carrey.
But the guy who was Loki in that movie played Loki in other things?
Yes.
He's the guy who played Loki for years?
Yes.
Okay, I kind of thought it was the other guy who was in the second Mask movie with Jim Carrey. Cameron Diaz wasn't in it. It was like this redhead lady. Because Hollywood always does the thing where they get rid of the main female role. Sorry, didn't mean to talk.
Yeah, they get rid of the main female role in every sequel.
And replace her, and it's just a whole new romance, and none of the events of the last movie mattered whatsoever. It's always when the events of the last movie don't matter whatsoever. That's always when they switch up. It's always the same 3 idiot writers, something like that.
And it's usually the same movie. Yet, forgetting that the last movie existed.
Yeah, I almost feel like,
but with the same main character.
Right, but there's like this sexist thing where like women only get half the work men do. Or something like that.
And it's really
they can't rock out a series as, along with, we can't do a man and woman
in a series.
Right? Oh, speaking of which, did they make the second movie with Brad Pitt and Angelina? That exists, right? The second
Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Smith too?
No. There's just Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Okay. That was a good movie.
There should have been a Mr. and Mr. Smith too. For some reason,
I'm just getting sad now, and Jim Carrey wasn't in this. How do you have the second Mask movie
without Jim
Carrey? And while I'm at it, how do you have 2 Ninja Turtles movies with monsters? When they're horrible. I watched it. They were cute and had round shells, and
the monsters are horrible.
Donatello didn't have that weird thing mounted on his eye. He was just kind of a dork and funny. And him and Michelangelo had a good relationship. I don't know what
the deal is.
I will tell everybody, the audience. This reality has a barbed wire flavor to it. I'm saying barbed wire flavor to it compared to a little bit more what I'm used to. All right. So anyway, that being said, over here we have The Hobbit. The Hobbit's cool. The Hobbit's cool.
Over there, they still probably have the 70s Hobbit.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just the 70s Hobbit. And then there's the Simarillion.
Okay.
And there's no
Hobbit.
But there's no Simarillion, right?
Right.
Here?
No.
All right, so anybody in the audience who saw the Simarillion 2, not part, what is it, part 1 and 2? Yeah, part 1 and 2, right? Well,
I don't know.
Jesus, I'm getting upset. Taking a breath. Okay. I mean, so you might enjoy to hear what the Simarillion was like, real quick. I'll just try to talk about it real quick, and then I'll just finish up here. There was the beautiful scene with, the yellow and blue thin banner that was in the wind. The guy with I should do my research. Not Thranduil. He was before that. He was like this older elf from the First Age. And there was the halls of, they had all these like jewels in the walls of Many-Growth, and it was like this whole city made out of jewels, and it was like this underground castle city. You know, it was kind of like in The Hobbit where there's the trees in the cave. It's like that, but like almost like better relationship with the dwarves or something. Okay, yeah. So there was that big cave. And then there was the guy who fought all the Balrogs.
The Balrogs.
Yeah, there was what was it, 5, 4? Well, you don't know. Anyway, one of them kept like with the whip, kept trying to hit him with the whip, and he had this sword, and it had like this like Zelda, when you play Zelda, you get the Master Sword, and it kind of glows when you swipe it. It's got like this magic glow to it, and then you can kind of do this thing where it like shoots a light beam that looks like the sword. Right, so this guy could do that.
Okay.
And he like held up his sword aloft, I guess. And Gandalf does it in Lord of the Rings with his staff. He like makes these Nazgul things go away by shining light at him like a flashlight out of his staff. So that's what this was like, but it was with a sword.
Yeah, and way more intense.
Yeah, well, the Balrog sure didn't like it. That pissed them off, and one of them had this sword that had, so their whips are actually swords, and when you see it in Lord of the Rings, I don't know if he has the whip and the sword in Lord of the Rings, because I'm in the Simarillion in my head right here. The whips are actually like broken down swords.
Oh, okay.
So and I remember in the commentary there was this like Surtur thing where Surtur swings his sword, and in Marvel he's just got this sword that he drags on the ground, but in the Simarillion, the Balrogs, the older versions of the sword, they have this rolling quality to it. So if they hit you with it and kind of drag backwards, it's as if like this like little tornado of fire is in it.
Okay.
And it's like multiple concussive hits, and it does it too. It's like a chainsaw. Actually, it's like it is. That I should have said to begin with. It looks like a chainsaw. Yeah, I should have said that to begin with. I'm better when I'm writing. This is just me recalling things. And anyway, that's what it looks like when it hits. And then this one guy's got an axe, and he hits my man. Well, they cut his horse. They practically cut him in half, but his horse through the armor. And then they go to hit him, and the axe is coming down, and his banner falls, and it's got yellow on the top and blue on the bottom, and it's very thin, and it has this tail at the end that goes in for a sec.
Okay.
So it's like maybe 3.5 meters long, 4 meters long. It's Peter Jackson. And it kind of goes in and out in the wind, and it's very, you see it blowing in the wind, and it's kind of like Superman's cape in the wind.
Yeah.
And then the stick falls, and the banner goes down in the mud, and the axe cuts his head like through this like cresty armor, and all this white flame comes out of it, and it's like this I would say like phosphorus. And it like burnt. He had so much
acid
energy. Yeah, it's like he was an elf guy. Did I say that? I can't remember the dude's name.
Okay.
And it like consumed him from the inside with this flame. And the same thing happened, I think it was earlier in the film, and there was, or was it part one? Anyway, there was the Feanor guy. He like burned up from like his soul, like standing.
Okay.
And, like the flame, like 4.5 feet in the air, or however tall he was, like from
went
his
right
heart.
through him.
Yeah, but it burned from the inside and then burned from the outside back to the in, and he just kind of poofed at the end. And then there was like this Jedi ghost thing, like in Avengers Endgame. No, Avengers Infinity War, when everybody turns to dust.
Yes.
It was a little bit like that when Feanor went down. Not so much dust floating away, but kind of like with the soul. Man, that movie was harsh. There were all the boats with all the scrimshaw, like the craziest amount of woodworking humanly imaginable on every inch of these things. And then there was like a fleet of them, and then they all burned.
Oh God.
There was the big guy. My voice is getting rough. I'm getting kind of tired, but he was like missing a leg, and he had the crown of the really thick. It looked like a caveman had made it. This crown.
Okay.
There were the two trees. I forget what their name. Telperion. They said it like 1,000 times. Telperion or something like that. And one was yellow, and one was like the moon, like a silver.
Okay.
And they were the sun and the moon.
Sun and moon.
And they did this cool thing with the rising and the setting of the two suns, or the two trees.
Yeah.
And they vibrated like the crystal in Star Trek. It's the crystalline entity. Anyway, they kind of vibrated a little bit and did like this singing tree deal, and they were kind of apart. And the moon one had kind of more like a willow tree sort of deal going on. And then it was bad when big guy destroyed. He had the big spider dark cloud thing.
Okay.
And he ripped open the tree, and the spider drank the inside of the tree, or drank its light or something like that, and got all fat. And it was sad. That was a sad movie. A lot of
darkness.
Yeah, and a lot of good people went down. And cinematic wise, it was beautiful to watch. And then next thing I know, there's the Hobbits out, and there's no Simarillion. And I've seen all the Hobbits, kind of after the fact. But anyway, that was down my little rabbit hole. I hope you got to see that movie too. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you got to see the Ninja Turtles. Maybe you got to see VHS. Maybe you got to laugh at the kind of professional when the Joker guys made up with each other. You know, and they kind of the pat on the shoulder.
Yeah,
you know, and
Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, Michael J. Fox and the guy who's kind of more famous for it. You know, but Michael J. Fox tried. Mark Hamill. Yeah. And it was nice to see them pat on the back and not like look at each other like I'm going to stab you.
Even though they clearly hate each other.
Yeah, and you know, Michael J. Fox is getting older and his Parkinson's is setting in. Oh, well, I hope he's doing well. And I'm glad people are around that might not have. I'm glad that we have a better liver.
And heart.
And, there's things to look up about even if
things are also looking weird.
Oh, and I did start on the time tree thing, and I didn't get, or the time thing, and I didn't get back to it. And it's the merging of realities and how confusing that could be. And if you want to kind of picture reality, time, multiverse in a way that at least you can walk away with and feel like, all right, I kind of got something to wrap my brain around. As far as coordinates go, so your first dimension is time.
Yeah.
That time moves forward and flows, right? So like electricity on a wire, like water flowing down a tube, like a hose, like a garden hose.
Yeah.
Okay, so your first dimension is a garden hose. And then at every spot off of that, you have all three dimensions, X, Y, and Z, up, down, left, right, side to side, sprouting off at the same time off this one dimension. Because they all...
Yeah.
Or it's that one dimension's running through all three at the same time. And ultimately, the universe might be wider than it is high. And so, like, that's the difference in the shapes between the X, Y, and the Z. Some variation of some bubble shape, whatever. Along a timeline. And then it moves forward in time. And, that's reality. If you consider the multiverse, then there's a junction in that garden hose. And now it's two different events. If you want to consider that that's a possibility, that reality has the ability to junction, then now the water, the same pressure is flowing down two different spouts at two different ends. And you can make a whole reality that's just a more complicated version. Like sugars sitting on fructose, sitting on carbohydrates, sitting on fats, sitting on blubber, just longer and longer chains of what ultimately probably looks something equivalent to a pine needle tree.
Okay.
Pine tree, All right, so if you have somebody that goes back in time, and consider all these pine needles and whatnot, they're all made of flowing water that's constantly flowing outward. And it's constantly moving at the speed of light outward and constantly branching multiverse-wise outward. And you don't have to get lost in what that looks like. It probably looks like a pine tree. Right?
Right.
And if there's supersymmetry reality, well, then that's the roots of the pine tree. It's on the other side. It looks like what goes up comes down. There's slight differences. There's your supersymmetry, your 10th or 11th dimensional supersymmetry, 6 dimensions of a Calabi yaw shape.
Okay.
3 dimensions of up, down, left, right, side, side. 1 dimension of time. Okay. We've constructed all the dimensions that comprise of reality right there that we know of. Fine. Not a big deal. The point is, as the water moves out and creates this bigger and bigger crystalline structure, if you were to time travel, it would look like one of those branches marching off of the branch, looping backward back down towards the trunk, back towards a larger branch, or a less dendritic branch. And that water then feeds back into the main branch. And if you're picturing this as a collection of tubes, that's not a big problem. You can just keep feeding it in.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's almost the equivalent of saying that Rick and Morty wise, you can go back in time and kill your father. You're just now in a reality where you went back in time
and killed your father.
And that which was not the original reality. In the original reality, you didn't go back in time. Now you've just made this other spout of a branch. Back at the point where we saw the branch go back and loop towards the trunk, well, now immediately where that branch, that dendritic end branch, time traveler, where he had a whole piece of fruit that was his reality and universe, he went back along, made a loop, came back to a previous end of the branch, and then immediately we see a new branch, like a sapphite, like a parasite. New branch pops off right at that junction, back in.
Right.
And more water flows off on that new branch, and it does its own thing there too. There's not much of a problem there.
Right.
That's fine. A slider is somebody who goes from one branch
to the other,
straight across to another branch somewhere. And they don't go backwards down the tree. They just go across the tree. Right. Now, let's say in this environment, for some reason, there's, I don't know, weather on this pine tree that we've created. Right. There's some sort of outside, I don't know, heat going on. It's rays from the, say this thing's in your yard, and there's rays from the sun that affect the system. Right. There's tachyon and neutrinos that affect the system because it's going through the tubes of water tree that I'm describing. That's theoretically in your yard, and it's all of reality. So there's not much problem with going back and forth in time and for two realities to merge. What we were saying earlier with realities merging and the Mandela Affect, you have one reality where they don't merge and one reality where they do.
Right.
You make a branch from, back from one branch to another. That's a slider. This is more kind of two branches. Somehow the junction is far at the end, and now we have two whole junction branches splitting off and then coming back to make one junction, which is actually exactly what it looked like when the one dude went back in time to kill his father.
Right.
It was a backwards loop junction thing, and the water keeps moving, the tree keeps functioning. There's no problem for things to keep moving forward. Or maybe you don't like a tree, maybe it's better to think of a river along a plateau.
Yeah.
And it just keeps splitting up dendritically that way. I went for a tree because the tree's three-dimensional. Anyway, so that was all I had for my thoughts on this one. I hope you have a settled and wonderful evening.
I enjoyed hanging out with you.
And there's no reason to be upset over upsetting things. We can just keep moving on, and even though reality might be falling apart around you, you can survive.
Right.
The Mandela Effect across the multiverse. The Mandela Effect and issues across the multiverse? Yeah. That was cathartic.
Please leave a comment, and you've got a friend in us.
This has been a Crazy Town production. Thanks for hanging out with us. I'm John.
I'm Patrick.
And please feel free to give us a thumbs up, subscribe.
Support us on Patreon if you feel like it. It would help us get better video and audio quality for you guys on our podcast. Thank you. And enjoyed hanging out with you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.